Hey everyone, Tutu back with some Spyral gameplay. This time I'm going to be featuring the much maligned member of the Spyral crew that I give the most crap, Spyral Tough. In the past I've posted deck lists and posted videos and told people I don't run Tough because he's such a dead card in the combo variants going first, and that's still true. He just doesn't do anything going first because his effect needs your opponent to have cards on the field to function, and that's how you get to see your opponent's top card and turn on the rest of your engine. But going second, he's almost certainly your best normal summon. Only rarely is Quik Fix better because your opponent's usually set up, and Tough is very powerful, especially under a Spyral Resort. Because once you start resolving Tough's effect, you can recur him multiple times, just like Quik Fix in Master Plan. He's not a hard once per turn; it's a soft once per turn, and that's just amazing, right? So I'm going to show you 3 games against heavy back row decks where I go second, and show you how Tough helps you dismantle boards. So obviously this hand gets me to Tough via Terraforming into Spyral Resort into Tough. And the reason I'm running Tough in this particular deck is because I'm running an Armageddon Knight Destrudo package, and Reinforcement of the Army is already going to go into my deck for Armageddon Knight. That makes Tough much more appealing when you already have a Rhoda in your deck. So my opponent, does the regular Trap Chicks play. They open Mermillo, get the Burning Trap Hole, the one that does 2,000 damage, and they drop Sarah, and then 3 more traps, right? So I go ahead and play Terraforming, see if I can bait out an Ash or anything that would get a spell. Nothing happens. That clears the way from my Resort, and Resort's going to get me into Tough, as you might expect. And now I'm just going to summon Tough, and I'm going to activate Last Resort here. And you might wonder, why am I using Last Resort on Tough when I've already got Sleeper in hand? The main reason is I'm playing around Solemn Strike. Solemn Strike's incredibly popular in back row decks, and even under Resort, it would still kill Tough because it doesn't target. It just negates and destroys the card that it negates. So Resort is going to protect my Tough from an effect like that. Last Resort is. So once I can guarantee my first Tough activation, that's going to be great. My opponent uses Gravedigger's Trap Hole just to burn me. They don't know that I have an agent in hand, so they don't know that it would be better to hold this for agent. They're just trying to get their 2,000 damage off and turn their Trap Trick pseudo engine on. So this is going to obviously trigger a bunch of their effects. So it negates my Last Resort. Last Resort isn't hard once per turn. This is going to turn their Sarah on. Sarah's going to bring in Dionea. Dionea's going to get a trap back, and that's going to get Sarah, and Sarah's going to get another Floodgate Trap Hole, and there you go. So I'm going to go ahead and crit my Last Resort, and my opponent has no responses. Another nice thing about this is if my opponent has a Ring of Destruction or Paleozoic Dynamicious, Resort's going to protect all of my combo plays through that. I'm going to activate Tough and call Trap because it's a Trap Trick deck. Of course I'm calling Trap. And I get it right, as I should. I blow up the card they search for. All the cards that they reset, I want to blow up first. This is just in case, if my opponent can somehow stymie my plays going forward, I want to blow up the cards that they intentionally put back on the field, because that's probably cards they want to get to. So I'm blowing up the Gravedigger's Trap Hole because that's their win condition, the burning me for 2,000 multiple times, then attacking me for a little after they clear my board. And I'm going to blow up the card they searched for, which is the Floodgate. And amusingly, I have a Monster Reborn in hand, and this is pay attention to your opponent's cards when you have the opportunity, because my opponent played a Mermillo, and my opponent's Mermillo, upon special summon, destroys a spell or trap, so this is just going to be an easy pop for me. And I will mention I misplayed heavily here, so I wasn't really paying attention because I was focused on doing funny Tough plays, but I had clogged up my link zones, right? Why am I putting my monsters down here? My Helix is going to need downward pointing arrows, leftward pointing arrows to start doing my combos. I should be playing my monsters over here. So this is a big mistake on my part. I'm just going to go ahead and 1-for-1 and get my Quik Fix. And I get my Big Red, and I do another mistake. I link off Quick. I want to get Tough in the graveyard so I can revive him. And I wanted to get Quik Fix in the graveyard because Quik Fix is obviously better in the graveyard. And that leaves me with a blocked Helix. What am I doing? Why was I doing something like this? I can still kind of get out of it because, worst case scenario, I can link up into a Cerberus and start opening up some arrows this way and start doing stuff that way. But, this was obviously very silly of me to mess up my link zones this much. So I go into Tough, and I'm going to activate Tough again, targeting this card, and that's going to prompt them to use Ring of Destruction, which actually is going to benefit me. This is going to clear up my left link zone from below my Helix, so now, funnily enough, after my second Tough activation, I can go ahead and link off my Tough and Agent into a Helix. Now, I could recur Tough one more time, but that would be superfluous. I can get much more recursions if I go ahead and go into my Master Plan, finally get my actual combo engine going, and get Master Plan. Master Plan's going to get a Rescue. I can discard Rescue with Quik Fix. I also can discard it off of Nightmare Phoenix. Nightmare Phoenix also draws me a card that's going to turn Rescue on. Master Plan's going to get me a search and a resort, and obviously at this point my opponent's done, right? I'm going to completely annihilate the board. I could have recurred Tough 2 more times that turn, and that would have been hilarious. But yeah, they're obviously beaten. So yeah, that was game 1, and I just, under the power of Last Resort, and normal summon Tough, my opponent just really could not handle that. All right, so let's get on to game 2. All right, we're on to game 2. This time I got 1-for-1 again. This wasn't intentional. I was just making videos like, hey, let's do some Tough focus stuff, and I just ended up drawing 1-for-1 a couple of times in a row. These were back-to-back games actually, and I used I got Reinforcement of the Army though, so that's going to be tough. And I've got Magician Souls and 1-for-1, which gets me into a Quik Fix or a Drone or anything like that. So I've got a really good combo hand. My opponent opens up with a Reinforcement of the Army. The reason I don't ash this is kind of like 2 or 3-fold. The main one is you got to like think when you're going to ash something. Like Reinforcement of the Army is a generic spell, right? What decks run Rhoda? The main ones would be Phantom Knights, and if it's Phantom Knights, I'd probably want to save my Ash for a Bardiche, because they can probably get into Bardiche even if I Ash their Rhoda. So Bardiche is like your highest priority Ash target in that deck. Next one would be Sky Strikers. It's pretty reasonable to ash a Rhoda against Sky Strikers because it can keep them off Ray, which is really, a Sky Striker deck without Ray is much weaker. But you risk like them actually already having Ray. And if they already have Ray, then you just negated something that was pointless to them. And a lot of the times they'll just play Rhoda to bait and ash and to get another spell in the graveyard. So I just don't like Rhoda. I don't like ashing Rhoda against Sky Striker. I can just save it for like an Engage. Engage is usually a really good high priority ash target. Another common deck, as you might notice, I'm running it, is Spyral. Spyral often runs Rhoda for Tough plus Agent, and sometimes Armageddon Knight. Obviously, there's way better Ash targets than Reinforcement of the Army against Spyral. Master Plan, Double Helix, Quik Fix, even Resort, Armageddon Knight sometimes. Like, these are all just much better Ash targets, and that's like the main ones I can think of. But yeah, so I always try to like Ash the actual plays rather than the searchers in this situation. So yeah. My opponent's actually playing Subterror, and I'm immediately rewarded because my opponent has a Hidden City, which is a much better searcher, which would go get them into Guru. I'm going to go ahead and ash that because the Subterror deck without Guru is way weaker. And that prompts my opponent to set 3 pass, so I got to battle through a set 3 against a trap deck, often a stun deck. And I draw Resort. Hey, what a good draw. So now I've got Resort plus Rhoda is Agent plus Tough. So it's not that uncommon to draw this. I mean, you run functionally 4 copies of Resort, and you run functionally 2 copies of Agent and Tough via Rhoda. I'm just going to go ahead and get my Magician Souls going. I'm seeing if they have a Maxx here or something before I commit, and they don't. And I'm going to activate Tough. I'm going to call Trap card, and this is why I played Last Resort on my Tough last game. My opponent Solemn Strikes it, and that gets me off my Tough. Thankfully, I have extension in the form of 1-for-1. Lots of cards will still extend me here, but 1-for-1's the best one. And instead of going into Quik Fix, I'm going to go into Drone. And the reason I go into Drone is, one, I want, like, Quik Fix would still get me there via, like, Quik Fix, get Big Red, Tough, call our card, that would turn on Super Agent. But I can immediately turn on Super Agent and then go into Helix here, and I can stack my opponent's deck as opposed to just call it. And stacking is really powerful because I can just put a bad card on top of their deck, which means, like, even if I can't kill them this turn, because, like, whatever cards they got left stop me, they're not going to have a good card next turn to follow up on stopping me from killing them. So I really like getting into Drone here for that reason. I'm still going to go into Quik Fix. So put a bad monster on top of their deck, Super Agent trigger, pop their back row. It was the final battle trap, the one that like they could constantly reset their gurus and stuff. And now that gets me into Helix, and Helix is now finally going to get me into Quik Fix. And the reason I did this also because I already had a Master Plan in graveyard. I wasn't going to have to use my Helix for Master Plan, thanks to Magician Souls. So I'm going to Big Red Master Plan. I have to get my Master Plan loops going before I commit to like multiple Tough activations. So getting Rescue in the graveyard is really good. I can draw 2. This draws me into Where Arf Thou, which is funny. It's not really necessary, but it gets me into a Jet Synchron. Jet Synchron's fun. It's a good discard outlet off of Quik Fix. So I can go ahead and link off into a Nightmare Phoenix to blow up their Hidden City. You activate Master Plan effect, activate Phoenix effect, discard Jet Synchron, blow up Hidden City, and yeah. And then I can get another card to discard and a Sleeper off my Master Plan, and I'll Resort to go get Last Resort and other cards. I can use Rescue, bring back Master Plan, and get another Rescue, and I can just keep going from here. And Rescue, discard Quik Fix, bring back Quik Fix, go get Last Resort, and at this point I can actually, an important thing when you're going second is you don't have to commit Sleeper to the board unless you really need it to OTK with like an access code talker. keep these cards in your hand if you can set up an OTK situation without committing it, right? Because Sleeper's a really good follow-up. Like, if my opponent's last card here is Nibiru, I should be comboing just to get to an Axis Kotaker plus some 1900 creatures instead of Sleeper, because that'll keep my Sleeper in hand. If they Nibiru me, I can drop Sleeper, blow up their Nibiru, and then their next card is dead thanks to drone, and I still got a Sleeper and a Nibiru token on the board, right? And that's game next turn. So it's really good going second. Sometimes you just hold Sleeper in your hand until you absolutely need it to break the board. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to keep comboing, but at this point my opponent sees the writing on the wall. They've got nothing. They know the next draw is dead, and then they just go ahead and concede. And I don't blame them, right? That's the best way to save some time. So yeah, that was game 2 against a Sub-Terror deck. Not the most common trap deck, but you'll see it sometimes, and they're really powerful. All right, on to game 3. Alright, well, welcome back to Game 3, guys. Unfortunately, the game I was going to use, I didn't get a chance to record yesterday because a maintenance happened, and when they did maintenance, they deleted all my match history, and I had forgotten to save the replay to my profile. So I lost a decent replay against the Eldritch deck where Tough really showed out. But so now I'm actually, I went to rank to get my 3rd video because I'd said at the beginning of the recordings I was going to do 3 videos. And I'm actually playing a full going second control version of Spyral. I'm running 2 Toughs, I'm running 2 Agents, I'm even running a fully armed just because it's really good against skill drain decks, and you can if you hard draw fully armed plus a Tough, you can start blowing up their skill drains and then start picking up their back row. Really good against Eldritch that way. It's not a good card going first, though. It's a super bad brick, so never run fully armed if you're a going first deck, ever. It's so bad going first. It's not even worth the versatility that Tough gives you in some going first decks. But yeah, so I'm running this version of the deck, and my opponent's a DDD opponent. They're not a heavy back row deck, but they do put a lot of permanents on the board, and boy, that's fun with Tough. So I'm going to show you a fun game, if not the best game. My opponent's going to normal summon Kepler. For DDD, I'm pretty sure that's bad. If you're opening as normal summon Kepler, you're not going to get your best in board. We're just going to kind of speed through this, because my opponent really doesn't put the best board on the field after this, because they're limited because they've already used their normal summon that way. They're going to do a little bit of pendulum stuff. They're going to go to Gilgamesh. Once you go to Gilgamesh, they're DDD locked, or once they use his effect or something, and they only have one really good interaction they can go into, and that's Siegfried. And Siegfried is just a negate a face-up spell trap, and that's the only interaction they have. But hey, they've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 permanents, and I draw Magician's Souls, which is hilarious. This card's obviously good no matter what version you're playing because it gets Master Plan in the graveyard and draws you cards, and it baits certain effects like Ash. Sometimes they'll Ash your draw. So I'm just going to go ahead and use Magician's Souls, see if they have a Maxi. They don't. I get Magician Souls on the field, and I go ahead and go get my my favorite boy in this situation, Spyral Tough. Give him some tough love. Go to normal summon Tough, call monster, and I get it wrong. Sometimes that happens. Even if their deck is 80% monsters in a DDD combo deck, sometimes it's just wrong no matter what, and I hit a 1-for-1. But thankfully, this does turn on my Super Agent, and this time I make sure not to clog my zones. I've got my my zones over here filled up. I'm gonna play Super Agent, just blow up their pin monster. None of their back row actually matters. This is going to turn into Helix. That I know their top card. Use Helix. And go get Quik Fix again because I've got Master Plan in rotation. This gives me my Big Red. I can use Big Red. Go into Master Plan. My opponent is going to... Here's a hilarious interaction. Siegfried negates a target. That target has its effect negated. You cannot target a Spyral Big Red while Spyral Resort is on the field. My opponent obviously didn't realize that interaction. Most negates are just responsive. They negate that activation is what they usually say, not negate that target for the rest of the turn. So obviously this is really bad for my opponent because they negated a Spyral Resort, and I've got another one in hand, That negate's not doing anything. So I bring back Master Plan. I go ahead and play my Resort so I have a non-negated Resort on the field. Use Master Plan, go get an Assault, and I get Assault for a funny reason. I'm going to discard it off of Souls to draw some cards. Now I can use my Resort to go get Tough, to use Assault to summon Tough. Ain't that fun? Use Tough, pop a card. Usually use Assault to get Drone because it's a good combo piece when you're doing that, but this isn't a combo. This is a board-breaking scenario, and Tough's way better than Drone. So I'm going to go into Cerberus at this point. They got plenty of special summon monsters. I'm going to use Rescue and pop a creature, get a Resort, use my Resort, go get Sleeper. And this is similarly to before. If their last card is Nibiru, I can hold my Sleeper and then as a follow-up in case I get Nibiru'd. So I'm going to use Tough, bring back Tough, third Tough activation, finally blow up their last creature. At this point, this effect is not very relevant. If this card is destroyed by a card effect, gain 1,000 life points for a contract. He's going to gain 1,000 life points. My opponent has an Ash, my opponent has a Maxx. There's no way this Call by the Grave is going to matter. Just go ahead and use it on the only graveyard effect they're going to have this turn. Because I'm about to spin this Abyss King Gilgamesh, and I don't need Called by for it. So I'm going to link off 3, go into Nightmare Unicorn. I can discard any card that's, I've got... None of these cards actually matter at this point. I just go ahead and discard Impermanence because I'm not going to need it. And I draw another Impermanence. How about that? And I go into Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn's going to get me my Master Plan, which is going to get me into my last Rescue Mission. I only run 2 in this deck because I'm not trying... I don't run Trigate, right? I'm going second. I'm not trying to do a Trigate setup. So go to Quik Fix, discard Rescue, bring back Quik Fix. Quik Fix is going to get my last resort. Now I'm safe against Nibiru, right? Use Rescue Mission, bring back Tough. This is going to be the 4th Tough activation. I could have done it a little more if I really wanted to, but I didn't. Call it right, blow up their last monster, go into Access Code Talker, and that's game, right? That's lethal on board with a Spyral Sleeper in hand as follow-up. That's what you kind of want to do going second sometimes, unless you need your Sleeper to break the board. Maybe your opponent does have Nibiru, right? I'm going to attack, and my opponent concedes. I don't know why they let me get the last 2 attacks to get the dualistic speed, but hey, sometimes they just get up frustrated. But yeah, that was a good game showing like just how many times you can recur Tough, right? I hope you guys enjoyed that. I finally gave a little bit of love to Tough, a little bit of Tough love to my opponents too. Have a good one, guys. See you next time.